Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about all things breastfeeding. I am going to talk about some breastfeeding essentials that you would like to have for when you're at the hospital, when you just gave birth, when you're at home, when you're out and about. And I'll end it off with some of my favorite work pumping items as you transition to going back to work, transitioning off of breastfeeding if you're exclusively breastfeeding. So if that is something that interests you, then go ahead and keep on watching. So I'm currently pregnant with my second, so I've already gone through this the first time, and I feel like everybody talks about breastfeeding items and things that you need to have. I just want to share some of my essentials with you. I feel like I was kind of aiming to be a low effort, low stress breastfeeding kind of mom. I did exclusively breastfeed for the first 5 months of my son's life, and then I went back to work, so I pumped. And I basically pumped at work, and then I breastfed every time that I was with him at home. I never gave him a bottle. I always breastfed him. But when he wasn't with me, he had a bottle. I also want to share that breastfeeding for me, although I feel like it did come pretty natural, I struggled with so much in the beginning. The main thing that I struggled with was pain. It was so painful for me. Literally toe curling pain. But once that pain subsides and you're no longer in pain after like the first few weeks, it became so easy for me, and I just preferred that over pumping. But everybody's journey is different. Some people like to breastfeed and pump. Some people do exclusively pumping. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what, fed is best, which literally means it doesn't matter if it's breast milk, formula, as long as your baby is eating and growing healthily, like that's all that matters. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to breastfeed full time and or you have to pump. Like, it's literally a personal choice for you and your family. So if you guys are interested in fully pumping, I think you guys would still be interested in some of the items that I talk about here. Anyways, a lot of rambling. It was just hard for me in the beginning, but it's definitely something that you can get used to, and it's definitely doable. And for me personally, I didn't really want to be stuck washing pump parts and bottle parts and stuff like that. And for me, it was just simpler to pop them on the boob and just call it a day, especially when we were out and about, and especially when we were traveling. I was so glad that as long as I was with him, I knew that he was going to be fed. So that's why I chose to exclusively breastfeed for the first 5 months of his life. And then after, when I worked, I mean, I guess it was not really called exclusively breastfeeding because he's not breastfeeding while I'm at work. But when I came home, I always breastfed him through the night. So that's kind of how I went about it. Okay, so you're about to have your baby and you're about to go to the hospital and you're like, what do I need? I think that you don't need much. I think the first thing you need to think about is possibly a pumping bra or a breastfeeding bra, a nursing bra. I have one here, and it's basically just a bra that you wear normally that has these clips so that you can unclip, clip it back on. You don't have to put your whole bra down. And these come in handy your whole breastfeeding journey, your pumping journey, honestly. And they're pretty comfortable for the most part. I like to get mine from Target. And by the way, everything that I talk about will be linked below in my Shop My. So every single thing I mention will be linked below. So I got mine from Target, and I do have these linked. I have a few from Target linked because they have some pretty good options and they're cost effective, which is my biggest thing. I don't want to spend $30 to $50 on a bra. Like, I want to spend 15 bucks and call it a day. And that's how much these were when I bought them. So I like mine from Target. And another thing that you want to think about is the pain management for your nipples, because let's be real, apparently it hurts everybody in the beginning. So I would recommend some Silverettes or some nipple cream. As far as I know, if you're using Silverettes, you are not supposed to use any other cream. The Silverette and what the Silverette contains, which is the silver, is supposed to be enough to heal your cracked, sore, bleeding nipples, right? So it's one or the other. Either you're doing a kind of treatment with some kind of nipple balm, or you're doing the Silverettes. I like the Silverettes. I wore them all the time. There is a possibility that you can get something called Thrush, but I would just recommend showering often if you can and cleaning them out. And if you're not using the Silverettes, then you can use nursing pads, which is something else that I would recommend having in the beginning. I wouldn't take nursing pads to the hospital because your milk it's not coming in yet, so you're not going to be leaking. But as soon as you get home, I feel like you're definitely going to need nursing pads. I know I have some in stock. So those are the hospital items: Silverettes, nursing bras, and nursing cream if you're not doing the Silverette. So that's like what you would need at the hospital. So then you come home and you're like, okay, what else do I need? My struggle in the beginning was a lot of pain, and I was like, what can I even do? I didn't like that I didn't have the option to pump because I didn't have a pump. So I had to call up my sister-in-law, and luckily she was amazing. She gave me everything I could have needed and more to start being able to express some milk and possibly give my son some milk in a bottle because I was having so much pain at the breast. And I didn't end up giving him too many bottles. I think it was maybe like once a day for a while. And then once the pain subsided, because the thing for me was that I needed to have him less at the boob because it was so painful, that I needed to have like a pump. So she provided me one of her pumps, and then I also rush ordered on Amazon the Medela hand pump. That thing, you guys, is amazing. I think any hand pump that you can get your hands on is amazing, but I specifically love the Medela one so much. I think that's like an essential that you should have on hand. It's not a full-on electric pump, it's a hand pump. Like, it's so good to have in case you're having pain, if you're engorged possibly, and you want to relieve a little bit of pressure before you put the baby on the boob. That way the baby is not like gulping down so much milk, because that does happen, especially because your milk is barely regulating like in the first 3 months. So I would definitely get a Medela hand pump. You want to get either some bottles for the milk or some milk bags. I would recommend the milk bags, but it's good to have both. There's Medela options as well for both, and then there's plenty of milk bag options like Medela, Motif, Mom Cozy. Any of those would work. Last thing I feel like that's pretty necessary when you're home is some kind of breastfeeding pillow. I didn't get the Boppy, is it the Boppy? Or my Breast Friend. I literally bought a pillow from Home Goods that's like a long pillow. That's what I used. I didn't want to buy a big pillow and then have it sitting in storage. I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't necessary for me, but everybody that buys it loves the My Breast Friend pillow. So I'll link it for you guys, but I didn't buy it. I didn't want to spend money on it. So again, moving on, for when you're home is your breastfeeding pillow, the Medela hand pump, bottles for milk, and milk bags. Then when you go out and you're like out and about, if you're solely just breastfeeding, then you don't really need much besides accessible clothing for you to be able to pop it out to feed the baby, and a cover. Honestly, again, very low pressure breastfeeding here. I think the biggest thing for me was learning that the clothes that I'm wearing moving forward has to be accessible for the baby. I would not wear a shirt like this if I'm breastfeeding, to be honest, because it's just so annoying to have to lift my entire shirt, and then if I have the cover on, I feel like my stomach area is still exposed, and I'm just not a fan of that. So one of my favorite shirts that I was wearing a lot was some kind of Henley. So this is from Aerie, and they always have some kind of variation of a Henley, so I would definitely check that out. I love it because it has buttons, right? So if you really want to open it up, you can unbutton, but I feel like these were stretchy enough that I didn't have to unbutton. I would just pull it down, and my stomach was still covered and it wasn't exposed, and I felt comfortable because then if I had to like take the cover off, I would just pull it over real quick. And I feel like this helped me so much, along with my all-time favorite tank tops. These are from Walmart, and again, I do have them linked. They're so stretchy, you guys, and these are not maternity. Both of these shirts are not like maternity or postpartum like nursing shirts, but I love them so much. These I've had since my last pregnancy, and these are the No Boundaries brand. These are amazing, especially for breastfeeding. I don't know why I just love this so much. Like, I love that they're so stretchy, they don't lose their shape, that I was able to like pull it down to breastfeed and then pull it back up. These, along with these kinds of shirts, the Henleys, and this specific tank top from Walmart, were like my best friend. I feel like I wore them all the time during my first pregnancy or during my first postpartum. I feel like people don't think about how breastfeeding changes your style, and because it kind of has to. I even had an event where I had to wear a dress, and I was like, wow, I can't even wear like a mock dress neck or like a sleeved dress. I had to look into something that was V-neck so that I was able to pop it out to breastfeed. I had to think about the bra that I was gonna wear. I couldn't do anything with like pasties because obviously you can't cover the nipple you have to feed. So it's kind of like an unspoken thing, but you need to think about the clothes that you're gonna wear when you're breastfeeding. Last but not least, we're gonna talk about pumping at work. So as I mentioned, I breastfed for a long time, or for the first few months. Then when I went back to work, I had to transition to pumping. So basically what I would do is in the morning, I would give my son one last feed so that by the time I got to work, I still kind of had a while. I was able to get there, settle in, have my breakfast, and then in about an hour or so, I would go pump my first pump. I usually did 3 pumps a day because I did every 2 hours, I think. And then I would kind of time it in a way that when I got home, he was hungry and I was full. So it worked out because I would feed him. The few things that I need to pump at work is really not a lot. Some people pack way more than me, but I feel like I'm just gonna show you the bare essentials that you need to pump at work, and then you can add on from what I'm showing you if you feel like you need to. So I just bought this bag. This is from Target. I will link it. I don't know if it's not sold out, I will link it, but I bought it because my previous bag was just like a tote bag, no insulation, no nothing. And when I saw this bag, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So this is a milk storage bag, which I'm assuming if you're out and about, you put some ice packs in here, some bottles if you're like a pumping mom. But I'm going to use this for when I go back to work this second time around. And like I said, it's insulated, so the idea is for everything to stay cool. What you need is your pump. I use the Eufy S1 Pro. These are wearable pumps. I personally did not have the best output with a wall pump like the Spectra. For some reason, that pump specifically just did not really give me a lot of output. My friend let me borrow her Medela, and that thing was amazing. That thing like took out all the milk out of me, but I didn't take that one to work. This thing also took a lot of milk out of me, especially my first morning pump. People talk about how wearables shouldn't be your main pump, but this is all I use, and I had a lot of success with it. So I think it's just at the end of the day what works best for you. I love this pump. This one does have the heated technology, but I didn't really use it. So if you don't, I mean, I like to know that I have it, and sometimes I do use it, or I did use it, but I don't think it's necessary to have the warming feature. So they have an S1 that's not Pro, and that one I think would yield similar results. So I love this pump so much. It does have a charging case, but I found myself not really using the charging case, just the charger. So I didn't pack the charger case in here. And then you definitely need some bottles. So I would pump into bottles because what I did was the pitcher method, which was I would pump at work, dump everything into a pitcher. Then the next day I would prepare bottles, or I think I gave the pitcher to my mother-in-law. I think I just gave her the whole pitcher. Or did I prepare bottles? I don't remember anymore. But I did the pitcher method. So people talk about how you shouldn't mix your morning milk with your night milk. That wasn't really the problem with me because I only had morning milk. I didn't have night milk, so I didn't have to worry about mixing morning and night milks. But if you really wanted to, maybe you can have 2 pitchers if you're pumping morning and night to separate them. And then in here I also have these covers. These are in a Ziploc because I would put them in the fridge after I pumped, so I didn't have to wash it after each time. But if that makes you uncomfortable, because I know some people like to clean it, and that's totally fine. There are some like travel cleaning kits, which I think are so cute. They're just like little stands with like a little brush, and some people like to wash their pump completely between pump sessions, which is totally fine. Another option, if you don't want to wash them but you do want to clean them, I think I need to toss these already, are to have some breast pump wipes. So what you can do is you can pump, wipe them down completely, let them dry, and then store them before your next session. Then you'd also for sure need some storage bags, which I talked about earlier. These are the Medela ones. This is what they look like. And then something to write down at the time you pumped. So again, I would take bottles because I didn't really care what time it was, whether it was first thing in the morning or lunchtime or whatever. I just pumped so that I can bring it home, put it in the pitcher, and then give it to my mother-in-law the next day. So those are my work pumping essentials, which is just the pump, the milk bags or bottles, some kind of cooler, and then like bottle washing supplies, or sorry, pump washing supplies, I guess, if you want to wash your pump in between pump sessions. And I do want to mention this Mom Cozy cooler that I don't have the other pieces to right now because I need to find them. But basically this is cool because what you can do is you can put bottles in here and they will stay cool. They'll actually be really, really cold. So the reason I bought this was because I had a work event in which I had to be out all day. So I needed somewhere to keep my milk cold while I was driving around. So this came really in handy. There are different brands that do this, but this is the one that I really liked because the milk was in the bottle. But there's another one from Willow that if you don't want the milk to be in plastic, you pour the milk directly into the stainless steel compartment, and then it has another compartment that freezes, I think, something along those lines. And so you have options. This isn't the only option, but I do want to mention it because it is what I have. I do want to mention though that I am lucky enough to have a fridge and a sink like station at my job. We have like a mother's room and it has those things available to us, but I know not everybody does. So I think having something like this cooler is a good option so that you can keep your milk cold all day if you don't have something like that, not just like for your ride home or work events. So that's my quick and dirty, hopefully this video wasn't too long, breastfeeding essentials for somebody who doesn't know what to get. I didn't want to overwhelm you with too many things. There are so many things on the market for breastfeeding and I don't think everything is a necessity, but there are definitely some things that will help you to have an easier time. At the end of the day, you need to be 100% comfortable with your journey and how you're doing things. So I just wanted to provide some of the things that made it easier for me. If you're a first-time mom, good luck. You got this. Give it a shot if you can. And if you can't breastfeed, then go ahead and start that pumping journey and get all your little pumping supplies. And I hope that everything is amazing for you because, girl, it's hard. I think at the end of the day, breastfeeding, even though it's like simple because you're just putting the baby to the boob, mentally taxing, exhausting, you eat so much more, you either lose so much weight or you gain so much weight. Like it's this whole thing. And I think it's amazing that we can even nourish our baby from our own milk. And if you can't and you have to use formula, don't feel bad. Sending all my love your way. Hopefully everything works out well for you. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.